In 2018, I had a foot surgery that basically led to this study being done. I was taking opiates daily for 2 months, and that caused me to have a very, very disrupted sleep cycle, which led me to try to find something that could fix that was non-pharmaceutical. I didn't want to take more medication to fix the sleep issue that I had already had. And when I found CBD and took it, I was terrified that I was going to fail a drug test because I couldn't find anything that would guarantee a zero THC content, and the question of zero THC couldn't even be answered. I'm Jon. I'm not a scientist. I'm not a researcher. I'm a firefighter. And I'm speaking today on behalf of the University of Arcadia and the University of Maryland at Baltimore, UMB. These two universities funded a study with my product, Rescue One CBD, which I'm the founder of, to see if firefighters taking our product would fail a drug test. This person, Heather Harris, is the person who championed this study, so I have to give her a lot of credit. I'll let you read her credentials here, but she is a really big deal in this industry. She has literally written chapters in the book about how to test for cannabinoids in urine and to use the machines and to calibrate the machines properly. If you're on a Netflix special, it's safe to say you made it. She's been on that. So she was the one who I wanted to be here. She said, can't make it. No problem. Can we have Dr. Samuel Krug, who was also in the study from UMB, do it? Nope. Apparently I'm the third runner-up. I would not have guessed that. And so I'll be presenting this on their behalf and trying to get through the crushing amount of imposter syndrome that I have here. So why do we need to do this research? Like I said, I'm not a researcher or a scientist. I was a guy who was pissed off that I couldn't take a CBD product with confidence and know there was someone out there making it that was safe for us. Every time I tried to ask for it, I got the same answer. The research hasn't been done. Well, who's going to do it? So in trying to create this brand, I looked up prior research, and I found some, not a lot. But it's never been done on firefighters. Firefighters are going to take products, they're going to push the boundaries. Policy is not clear, and the definition of zero THC isn't really there. This is why firefighters are afraid to take CBD, because there is a remnant amount of THC in all hemp products, which is where we get our CBD from. Can you take a CBD product and pass a drug test? What I wanted to do was establish, had any of the firefighters in our subject study get pulled for random drug testing, put them through the exact paces, and not just say, did they pass or fail? Let's see what happens with metabolites, because we, before this study, didn't understand CBD's metabolites too well either. So we did a screening to say, with a dipstick, and a confirmatory test. Screening is basically a glorified pregnancy test, right? It's immunoassay, shows a couple of red lines, and it says, there may or may not be a problem, let's send it off for confirmatory. Confirmatory is in a lab, liquid chromatography, mass spec. So I asked Ms. Harris, has this been done before? And she found this study done by Johns Hopkins. And in this study, you can see, most importantly, the top is placebo. And I'm sorry for the layout here. This slideshow was put together by scientists. And I went to go and try to translate it for firefighters. Although I know we do have a lot of other researchers in the room as well. But the top half of that is placebo. And you can see up there, I had to buy my own laser pointer, and I didn't even need one. You can see up there, the placebo even produced a small amount of THC content, THC metabolites. We'll talk about that. And in the bottom, taking 100 milligrams of CBD produced, over here, a failed drug test, 103 nanograms. 15 nanograms is the cutoff for a fail on this. So first, I'd like to talk about how small 15 nanograms is. To do that, I was supposed to bring a prop, which I did not do. So pardon me, I'm going to walk off stage here for a second. I'm going to take this, thank you very much. I'm going to use pepper, but it's supposed to be salt. 15 nanograms. So we're going to look at what's 1 nanogram. Sorry, I made a mess. That grain that you can't see on my finger weighs 60 million nanograms. 60 million, okay? We're looking for 1 nanogram in a milliliter. Just for a point of reference, if I took 1 grain and dropped it in that tank right there, I'm assuming that's a 750. We all agree, 750 probably. If I put 1 grain of salt in 750 gallons, that would be the equivalent of trying to look in 1 nanogram per milliliter. That's how sensitive this machine is. And so I bring that up because it's relevant in knowing what the margin of safety is for a cutoff. Why did they put the cutoff at 15 nanograms? Because it's so easy for these machines to pick up background and interference. Also, we can't be assuming people fail the drug test when we see those backgrounds and that interference. So that's why you have a placebo that has 2 nanograms in there. It could just be background. Okay. So we collected all these samples. I had to hold them at my home, which my fiance, my future wife, affectionately called the pee fridge. And we split these samples up. Half of them went to, they were split in half, sorry. And the first part of sample A went to University of Arcadia. Sample B went to UMB. People filled out this donor information. What's not featured here is the duration that they were taking the product. Some of people taking this product were taking it for over a year. And the type of product, everybody listed Rescue 1 CBD except for sample number 1. There was a second brand that they were also taking. It'll be relevant later. So after they got this, we tested with a Biorad and an ELISA. Those are both immunoassay tests. The Biorad is used more in forensics. ELISA is what you would see as a first responder. And both of those are screenings. They're not confirmatory. The reason we have a confirmatory is because things like ibuprofen can even cause a failed drug test on a screening. They can't be relied upon for determining a failed drug test. It's not just unscientific. In many cases, it's illegal if you have DOT standards or SAMHSA standards, which fire agencies do. So this is an example of a positive and a negative. Like I said, it looks like a glorified pregnancy test. You have red lines. If they are not there, then that's a fail. So what did it show for our samples? Half of them, almost, failed the immunoassay, the screening. Everybody in this room, if you've taken Advil before a random drug test, you've probably popped up as a fail. They send it off to a confirmatory test and it comes back fine. So you don't even get a phone call. So then we send to the University of Arcadia the ELISA, that's another immunoassay, just a different type. And they showed that several of them have producible amounts of THC. Whether they're a fail or not is more subjective. And sample number 4 has the highest amount. That is the person who is taking the most amount of our CBD. So now we have to get to confirmatory testing. Again, this would be the same process if you were pulled from work and put through random drug testing. Confirmatory testing requires 15 nanograms to be considered a positive. They report these numbers as either present with a numerical value, non-detectable, or below quantifiable. And the reason is, if you look, and this is kind of hard to see from where you're at, but all the way on the left, that is a quantifiable amount of THC content. It is 1.9 nanograms per milliliter, or 1.9 grains of salt in that water tank. The middle one is 0.1 nanograms per milliliter, so it's 1/10 of a grain of salt in that water tank. And you can say, I think there might be something here, but I can't tell. So we just have to write below quantifiable. It may or may not even be THC content. And the one on the right is like asystole. It's all the way, so it's flat down, okay? So this is the liquid chromatography results from University of Arcadia of our subjects. All the way on the right, we have 3 subjects that had background. They had producible amounts, reportable amounts of THC content, well below the fail rate of 2 nanograms. And then we have one that's below level of quantification. And when I first saw that, I said, we should have 0. Then I looked at University of Maryland's. All the subjects taking Rescue 1 CBD were BLQ or ND, and the one who was not taking Rescue 1 CBD has a small amount of quantifiable. So I asked Ms. Harris, why do we have differences? She explained to me, there are variances. And when you go to take a random drug test, they split up those urine samples and they look at them from 2 different machines for this exact reason. Reporting levels, the person reading it, and then background noise. Like I said, the placebo group in that Johns Hopkins study, somebody had a reportable amount of THC content in their urine. 15 nanograms is the cutoff. So when we looked at the sample concordance, again, kind of mess here, but this would be all the samples that may have failed the screening and were sent out to confirmatory testing all the way through, if you look left to right. They showed up positive on a screening, they got sent to confirmatory testing. All of them passed by a huge margin. You're talking about 15 nanograms required. And the most interesting things that were highlighted, even people with very high BMIs, the highest BMIs in the study, did not fail the test, and that's very easy to do when you have high BMI because all the metabolites bind to fats. And number 4, sample number 4, that yellow highlight, that has the highest amount of CBD content, 457 nanograms per milliliter, several times higher than everybody else with no detectable THC in the urine. All this is basically to say what they said, hey, we know screenings are screenings. They're going to cause a lot of false positives. Can't rely on those both scientifically and legally. Send them to confirmatory testing, which is standard procedure everywhere in the US for fire departments. And that the highest BMIs did not produce a failed drug test, which is very interesting. Compare this to the Johns Hopkins study that was done where we showed they were only taking 100 milligrams. They were tested after taking it once, and they had very high amounts of THC content even from those single doses versus taking this product several times a day, more than 1.5 times of the Johns Hopkins study, and taking it for up to a year without any failed drug tests. Finally, this was straight from Ms. Harris. No samples would have been declared positive for THC-COH under the current SAMHSA workplace drug testing protocol. This, I believe, is the first step in a really big journey for the US Fire Service. If we listen to Chief, who opened up this morning, where he spoke about sleep, and Dr. Matt Walker's emphasis on what sleep does for us, I would highly encourage you after this to look up research on CBD and sleep. There's a potential here that we're not seeing and that we do not need to be afraid of any longer. And furthermore, I think more research has to be done. This should be reproduced, and we should also try to go down a route of understanding what CBD does for sleep, inflammation, and other things. And I hope that this can inspire and maybe even start some of that other research. Thank you for your time.